Hello, everyone! Welcome to Easy English with Daisy. I'm Daisy, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Together, we'll learn English the easy and fun way pals, with clear, slow, and friendly speaking so you can understand every word. Are you ready? Let's start learning English with Daisy.
The Johnsons realize that they have new neighbors after noticing a moving truck pulling into the driveway next door early one morning. For several days, they catch glimpses of boxes being carried inside, furniture being arranged, and children exploring the yard, but they have not yet had the chance to properly introduce themselves. Wanting to be friendly and believing that good neighbors can make a community feel like home, the Johnsons decide that today is the perfect day to visit. Mrs. Johnson spends the morning baking a large batch of chocolate chip cookies, a recipe she has perfected over the years and usually saves for special occasions. Mr. Johnson helps decorate the basket, and their children excitedly gather around, eager to meet the new family they have been whispering about since the moving truck arrived. Together, they walk next door, feeling a mix of curiosity and warmth. When they reach the Taylor's porch, they knock gently, and after a moment, the door opens to reveal Mr. Taylor, who looks pleasantly surprised to see visitors. Mrs. Taylor soon appears beside him, followed by their two children, who peek out shyly from behind their parents. The Johnsons greet them with cheerful smiles and introduce themselves, offering the basket of cookies. The Taylors gratefully accept the gift and immediately invite them inside, touched by the gesture and eager to learn more about their new neighbors. The Taylors' home is still full of half-unpacked boxes, stacks of books, and blankets draped over furniture waiting to be arranged. But the atmosphere is warm and welcoming, wanting to show hospitality despite the chaos of moving. Mrs. Taylor suggests preparing a simple meal for their guests. After some discussion, they decide to make spaghetti, a dish that is easy, comforting, and quick to prepare. Spaghetti is also a family tradition for them, something they often cook when they want to relax and enjoy each other's company. As the sauce begins simmering on the stove, filling the house with the rich scent of tomatoes, basil, garlic, and onions, everyone settles into the dining area. The adults begin talking about the neighborhood, and soon the conversation becomes lively and engaging. The Johnsons share stories about annual block parties, weekend farmers markets, and the friendly people who live nearby. They talk about community traditions like the holiday light contest, neighborhood cleanups, and the outdoor movie nights held at the local park. They also offer practical advice, the best routes to avoid traffic, the quietest walking paths, the stores with the freshest produce, and the nearby cafe that serves the best breakfast in town. In return, the Taylors share a little about where they came from. They recently moved from the busy city where the pace of life was fast and crowded, and they hope this smaller, quieter neighborhood will offer their family more space to breathe and grow. They explain how excited they are to have a backyard for their children, a place where they can play freely without the constant noise of traffic. As conversations deepen, the adults begin discussing their jobs. Mr. Johnson explains his work as a graphic designer and how he loves creating illustrations, logos, and visual projects for various clients. He describes the challenges of balancing creativity with deadlines, but also the satisfaction of turning ideas into something visually meaningful. Mrs. Johnson shares her experiences as a school counselor, talking about the joy she finds in helping students overcome challenges, discover their strengths, and plan for their futures. She mentions how rewarding it is to see children grow and succeed. Mr. Taylor reveals that he is an engineer, someone who enjoys solving problems, designing structures, and working on long-term projects that require patience and precision. Mrs. Taylor, who works as a freelance writer, discusses the flexibility of her job, how she writes articles, stories, and online content, and how she loves the freedom to work from home while taking care of her children. The more they talk, the more similarities they discover. They share interest in gardening, cooking, reading, and even weekend hiking trips. Laughter becomes frequent, and the room feels brighter with every passing minute, as though new friendships are blossoming before their eyes. Meanwhile, the children quickly grow comfortable with one another. At first shy, they soon warm up and run outside to the backyard, where they begin exploring the swing set, the sandbox, and the small tree house left behind by the previous owners. They invent games, pretend to be adventurers on a quest, chase each other through the grass, and giggle nonstop. Even though they met only minutes ago, they behave as if they have known each other for months. They show off their favorite toys, talk about school, and even discuss what games they want to play the next time they meet. As the spaghetti finishes cooking, everyone gathers around the dining table. The meal is simple but delicious, and the warm atmosphere makes it taste even better. The Taylors apologize for the unpacked boxes, but the Johnsons assure them that it feels cozy and that the company matters far more than the setting. They eat, talk, laugh, and share stories from their childhoods, their travels, and their funniest life moments. Time passes quickly, and by the time dinner ends, it feels as though both families have developed a genuine bond. As the sun sets, the children head outside once more to enjoy the last bit of daylight. They catch fireflies, run barefoot through the soft grass, and marvel at how the sky changes colors from soft pink to glowing orange to deep, peaceful blue. Their laughter carries through the open windows, making the adults smile. Eventually, it becomes time for the Johnsons to head home. The families exchange warm goodbyes, promising to meet again soon, maybe for a barbecue, a picnic, or a shared movie night. The Johnsons walk back to their house feeling grateful for the lovely evening and excited about their new neighbors. Inside their home, the Taylors turn off the kitchen lights and sit quietly for a moment, reflecting on the day. Moving to a new place had been stressful, and they have felt a bit overwhelmed by the unfamiliar environment. But now, after spending time with such kind and welcoming neighbors, they feel reassured and comforted. The warmth, the laughter, the conversations, and the simple act of sharing a meal have already made this strange new place feel familiar. Surrounded by friendly people and the promise of new friendships, the Taylors feel truly at home for the first time since their move, and they look forward to the many happy moments that the future will bring. Stephen walks around his town on a bright Saturday morning, enjoying the peaceful rhythm of a day with no obligations. The sky is clear, the sun is warm but gentle, and a cool breeze drifts lazily through the streets. He likes starting his weekends this way, just walking with no real destination, letting his thoughts wander as freely as his steps. He passes familiar houses, small shops he has visited dozens of times, and neighbors trimming their gardens or sweeping their porches. Everything feels calm and ordinary. But then, unexpectedly, he trips over something. Startled, he stumbles forward and nearly loses his balance. He turns around, rubbing his shin, wondering what on earth was sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. When he looks down, he sees a wallet lying on the pavement, half open, as if dropped in a hurry. It looks worn on the edges but still sturdy, the kind of wallet someone has carried for years. Curious, Stephen kneels and picks it up. When he opens it, he freezes for a moment, surprised. Inside the wallet, he finds $500 in cash, neatly folded into a small stack. There are several credit cards, a few membership cards, and a driver's license tucked behind a clear plastic sleeve. The photograph on the license shows a middle-aged man smiling stiffly, perhaps for a formal ID photo. The name and address are printed clearly underneath. Stephen looks around, half expecting the owner to come running back, searching frantically, but the street is empty. No one nearby seems distressed or in a hurry. For a moment, he stands there quietly, the wallet resting in his hands, thinking about how easily someone's entire day or even entire week could be ruined by losing something so valuable. He knows immediately what he must do. Stephen needs to return this to the owner, but the town is large, and although he recognizes many faces, he does not recognize the man in the ID. He considers walking to the address printed on the license, but he thinks about whether the owner might already be searching somewhere else. The man could be retracing his steps at a store, calling restaurants, or wandering the park hoping to find the wallet exactly where he dropped it. Stephen sighs, thinking carefully. He wants to make sure the wallet gets back to the right person as quickly as possible. Then he remembers his town's lost and found center. It is a small office inside a town hall building. Everyone knows it as the safest place to return anything lost, because the staff carefully record every item, store it securely, and notify anyone who comes looking for it. If the owner realizes his wallet is missing, it's almost guaranteed he will check there. So Stephen starts walking. This time, his steps are purposeful and quick rather than relaxed. He holds the wallet carefully, making sure not to drop anything. As he walks through the town square, he imagines the owner's panic, patting his pockets, checking his car, realizing the cash and cards are gone. Losing $500 could be devastating. Losing identification and credit cards could cause stress for days. Stephen feels an even stronger sense of responsibility as he approaches the town hall. He pushes open the glass door and enters the building. The familiar smell of paper, ink, and polished floors greets him. The Lost and Found Center is on the left, run by a small team of employees who specialize in sorting through umbrellas, keys, glasses, children's toys, and all kinds of items that people drop or forget around town. Stephen steps up to the counter. The worker looks up with a friendly smile. "Can I help you?" she asks. He nods and places the wallet gently on the counter. "I found this on the sidewalk. There's a lot of money inside and identification. Someone must be really worried right now." The woman's expression grows serious. She opens the wallet and carefully examines the contents. Taking note of the name and confirming that everything is intact, she pulls out a form from a drawer and begins filling it out, recording the date, location where it was found, and the list of items inside. Stephen signs the form, acknowledging that he turned the wallet in honestly and completely. "Thank you," the woman says. Her voice is warm, grateful. "You probably saved someone a lot of stress today." Stephen smiles modestly. He hadn't done it for praise. He had done it because it was the right thing to do, because he imagined how he would feel if he lost something important, and how relieved he would be to know a stranger cared enough to return it instead of keeping the money. As he leaves the town hall, he feels lighter, not because the wallet is no longer in his pocket, but because he knows he helped someone, even if he never meets them in person. He walks outside into the sunshine again, his footsteps slower and calmer than before. He resumes his peaceful stroll through town, but now he notices the world more closely. The laughter of children playing in the park, the sound of someone's dog barking happily, the rustling of leaves above him. It feels like a good day. A day made better not by what happened to him, but by what he chose to do for someone else. Somewhere, perhaps right now, the owner of the wallet is searching, frantic and worried. But soon, maybe within the hour, He will arrive at the Lost and Found Center, and he will discover that everything he lost, everything he feared, was gone forever, has been safely returned. Thanks to Stephen. A flicker of kindness on a lonely road. The afternoon sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and burnt orange. I was driving alone along a winding country road, enjoying the rhythmic hum of the tires against the asphalt and the solitude of the drive. Suddenly, the peaceful atmosphere was shattered. The car gave a violent shudder, and the steering wheel jerked aggressively in my hands. A loud, rhythmic thumping noise echoed through the cabin, and the vehicle began to pull heavily to the right. Panic flared in my chest, but I managed to grip the wheel tight, ease off the accelerator, and guide the limping car onto the gravel shoulder. Silence descended as soon as I killed the engine. I stepped out into the cooling air, the smell of hot rubber assaulting my senses. My heart sank as I walked around to the passenger side. There it was. The rear tire was completely decimated, shredded by some unseen debris, sitting dejectedly on the rim. It was a flat tire, and a bad one at that. Okay, don't panic, I muttered to myself. Just call for a tow. Reflexively, my hand darted to my jacket pocket to retrieve my smartphone. It was empty. A cold wave of dread washed over me. I frantically checked my other pockets, then dived back into the car, ransacking my purse, the center console, and even checking under the seats. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I had left my phone charging on the kitchen counter at home. I was stranded. The road was desolate, with miles of empty fields stretching out on either side. As the last light of day faded into a creeping darkness, the shadows of the trees began to look longer and more menacing. A sense of vulnerability pricked at my skin. I stood by the hood of my car, hugging my arms around myself against the chill, feeling incredibly small and helpless. Just as the grip of anxiety began to tighten, I saw them two twin beams of light cutting through the gloom in the distance. Another car was approaching. Hope surged through me, warring with a natural instinct of caution. I stepped closer to the edge of the road and waved my arms, signaling distress. The approaching vehicle slowed down, the gravel crunching under its tires as it pulled up behind my disabled car. The driver's side window rolled down smoothly. The driver was a man who looked to be in his 40s, with a gentle face and eyes that held no malice, only concern. "Excuse me," I stammered, my voice slightly high with relief. "I am so sorry to bother you, but I've had a blowout, and I was foolish enough to leave my phone at home. Would it be possible to borrow yours to call a tow truck?" I braced myself for hesitation or a refusal. Instead, his expression softened into a reassuring smile. "Of course," he replied instantly, his voice warm and steady. He didn't just hand it over through the window. He put the car in park and stepped out to ensure I had good reception. "Here, take your time. Do you have the number for roadside assistance, or do you need me to look one up for you?" I took the phone with trembling hands. "Thank you so much," I breathed. While I made the call, he didn't tap his foot impatiently or look at his watch. He stood by his car, giving me privacy, but staying close enough to make me feel safe in the dark. After I confirmed that help was on the way, I handed the phone back, overwhelmed by his generosity. "You are a lifesaver," I told him earnestly. "You have no idea how scared I was." "It's no trouble at all," he said, waving off my gratitude. "I'm just glad I came along when I did. Stay safe now." As his taillights faded into the night, leaving me to wait for the tow truck, I felt a profound sense of warmth. In a moment of pure helplessness, A stranger had stopped, not because he had to, but because he chose to be kind. It was a simple gesture, but it turned a nightmare scenario into a reminder that there are still genuinely nice people in the world. She goes to the movie theater on a chilly Friday evening, hoping to relax after a long and tiring week. The glowing lights outside the theater shimmer against the dark sky, and the smell of buttery popcorn drifts through the air as she joins the line at the ticket counter. She has been waiting for this new horror movie to come out for months, even though she knows she scares easily. She tells herself that she wants the thrill, the rush of adrenaline, the excitement of being startled in a safe environment. But deep inside she wonders if she will end up covering her eyes through half the film. After buying her ticket and a large tub of popcorn sprinkled with extra butter and a bit of caramel, she makes her way inside. The hallway is dimly lit, lined with posters of upcoming movies, some action-packed, some romantic, and some frightening enough to make her shiver before she even reaches the correct theater room. She hands her ticket to the usher, who scans it and wishes her a good time. She pushes open the door and steps into the theater, greeted by rows of soft seats and a handful of early moviegoers settling in with their snacks. She chooses a seat in the middle row, close enough to feel immersed but far enough not to strain her neck, then sinks into the cushion and sighs in relief. As the lights gradually dim, she feels a familiar flutter of nervous excitement. The previews begin, loud and dramatic, flashing images of explosions, tearful confessions, and animated characters dancing across the wide screen. She munches on her popcorn, trying to savor the calm before the real reason she came. The horror movie she knows will test her courage. When the movie finally starts to play, the theater grows quiet, except for the crackling sound of wrappers and the low hum of the speakers. The opening scene is peaceful, perhaps too peaceful, as soft music accompanies a slow zoom on an old, abandoned mansion. She feels her heartbeat beginning to rise, even though nothing scary has happened yet. She grips her popcorn tub more tightly, reminding herself that she came here voluntarily. The music shifts into a lower, heavier note, and shadows swirl across the screen. Suddenly, a monster appears without warning, its grotesque face filling the entire theater, accompanied by a jarring sound that makes her jump so hard she almost spills her popcorn. She screams before she can stop herself, her voice small but sharp, causing a couple people nearby to glance at her with amused expressions. She blushes, embarrassed, but she cannot deny how terrified she is. Her heart races, her hands tremble, and yet she continues to watch, partly because she paid for the ticket, and partly because something inside her wants to see what will happen next. The movie grows darker, both literally and figuratively. Characters wander through foggy forests, abandoned hallways, and ominous basements. She hugs her sweater closer to her body, feeling as though the chill from the screen is creeping into her bones. Even though she is scared, she can't look away. She reminds herself, it's just a movie, just sound and light, just actors and costumes, but her imagination refuses to cooperate with logic. Eventually, a moment of silence falls. The screen is completely black. No sounds, no music, no dialogue, nothing but darkness. She blinks, wondering if there is a technical issue, but the audience remains silent, waiting. She slowly reaches for some popcorn, hoping to distract herself from the tension, her fingers brushing the still warm kernels. Just as she lifts a handful toward her mouth, the monster screams, "Boo!" in a sudden, explosive burst of noise that echoes through the entire theater. She shrieks and jumps so violently that the tub of popcorn flies out of her hands, scattering buttery pieces into the air like confetti before raining down around her seat. Popcorn covers her lap, the floor, and even the armrest of the person sitting beside her, who stifles a laugh while politely brushing a few kernels away. Her heart feels like it might leap out of her chest. She presses a hand against it, breathing hard, half annoyed at the movie for scaring her so badly, and half amused at herself for falling for such a classic jump scare. She whispers an apology to the person next to her, who reassures her that it's fine and that the movie is designed to scare people. She nods, thankful they are understanding, but still sinking lower in her seat from embarrassment. As the movie continues, she decides that since she already lost all her popcorn, she might as well brace herself properly for the rest. She focuses her eyes on the screen, as ready as she can be for whatever terrifying scenes come next. The story grows more intense, with characters discovering dark secrets, hidden rooms, and eerie messages left behind by the monster. Despite being frightened, she starts to enjoy the atmosphere, the suspense, and the thrill of not knowing what will happen next. She feels fully immersed, as though she is part of the unfolding mystery. The music swells at all the right moments, and every quiet pause fills her with dread. The monster continues to pop up unpredictably, each appearance triggering a jolt of adrenaline through her body. She clutches the edges of her seat, unsure whether she wants the movie to end or continue forever. Around her, other viewers gasp, jump, and whisper to each other, confirming that she is not the only one trembling under the tension. As the movie approaches its climax, the scenes grow more chaotic, filled with frantic chases, eerie whispers, and shocking revelations. She feels like she's on a roller coaster, climbing higher and higher toward the final moment of terror. When the ultimate scare finally hits, a sudden blast of sound and a final close-up of the monster lunging toward the screen, she practically leaps out of her seat. Her heart pounds with such force that she presses her palms against her face, both horrified and exhilarated. When the credits begin to roll, the tension slowly dissolves. She lets out a long breath she didn't realize she had been holding. People around her laugh nervously, stretch their legs, and gather their belongings. She stands up and shakes off the remaining popcorn stuck to her sweater, smiling sheepishly at the mess she made earlier. Even though she was terrified, she feels strangely proud for making it through the entire movie. She walks out of the theater feeling lighter, energized by the rush of emotions. The hallway lights feel brighter than before, and the cold night air outside seems refreshing instead of eerie. As she heads home, she laughs at herself, already imagining how she will retell the story of her spilled popcorn to her friends. Despite all the screaming, jumping, and heart-pounding moments, she secretly can't wait to watch another scary movie. Though maybe next time, she'll buy a smaller bucket of popcorn. The Saturday Stalemate. Chapter 1. The Weight of the Afternoon. The clock on the wall of David's living room ticked with a rhythm that felt mocking. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Saturday, widely considered the prime time for weekend activities, yet the atmosphere in the apartment was heavy with inertia. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight cutting through the blinds, settling onto the carpet where three friends sat in a triangle of indecision. David was sprawled across his beige recliner, one leg draped over the armrest, staring blankly at the popcorn ceiling. Jennifer occupied the love seat, scrolling through her phone with a glazed expression, her thumb moving in a repetitive, hypnotic rhythm. Susan sat cross-legged on the floor, leaning against the coffee table, tossing a stress ball up and down, catching it with a soft thwack against her palm. They had been friends for years, a trio bound together by shared history and a mutual inability to ever agree on plans quickly. Today was proving to be a master class in gridlock. The energy in the room was a strange mix of restlessness and paralysis. They had met up an hour ago with the vague intention of doing something fun, but the definition of fun was currently lost in a fog of conflicting needs. "This is ridiculous," Susan said, breaking the silence. She squeezed the stress ball hard. "We are wasting the day. The sun is actually shining for once, and we look like exhibits in a museum of boredom." David groaned, a low rumbling sound that seemed to emanate from the depths of his chest. "I can't think," he muttered, closing his eyes. "My brain has shut down due to lack of fuel." Jennifer looked up from her phone, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Don't start, David. We've been sitting here for 45 minutes. We need a plan, not a complaint." "I have a plan," David countered, opening one eye. "It involves plates, forks, and a substantial amount of carbohydrates." And so the negotiation began. Chapter 2: The Culinary Conundrum. David sat up, swinging his legs to the floor. He was a man of simple pleasures, and right now his biological clock was screaming for lunch. He hadn't eaten since a light toast at 8 a.m., and the beast within was awakening. "Look," David began, gesturing with his hands as if painting a picture in the air. "There is that new Italian place downtown, Luigi's. I saw the reviews. They have a lasagna that is supposedly the size of a brick and tastes like heaven. We go there, we get a booth, we eat until we can't move. It's the perfect Saturday." He looked at his friends with hopeful eyes, mentally tasting the marinara sauce. Jennifer and Susan exchanged a look that David knew all too well. It was the look of the satiated. "David," Jennifer said gently, as if breaking bad news to a child, "we can't eat. Not a real meal." "Why not?" David demanded, tragedy written all over his face. "Eating is essential for survival. It is the cornerstone of civilization. Susan and I met for brunch at 11:30. Jennifer explained, patting her stomach. "We went to that buffet place. I honestly think I ate my weight in waffles and smoked salmon. If I look at the lasagna right now, I might actually be sick." Susan nodded in agreement. "I'm stuffed, Dave. Seriously. I had 3 omelets. I feel like an anaconda that just swallowed a goat. I need at least 4 more hours before I can even consider food." David slumped back into his chair, defeated. The vision of the lasagna evaporated. "So I'm supposed to starve? Is that the plan? You two feast like queens while I wither away in my own living room?" "You can make a sandwich," Susan suggested helpfully. "We'll wait." "It's not the same," David sulked, crossing his arms. "I wanted a social dining experience. I wanted appetizers. I wanted ambiance. Eating a ham sandwich over the sink while you two watch me isn't exactly the highlight of my weekend." The food option was officially off the table. The room returned to silence, but now it was a silence filled with the phantom scent of Italian food that David couldn't have. Chapter 3: The Musical Misstep. Jennifer, feeling the dip in morale, decided it was her turn to steer the ship. She was the energetic soul of the group, the one who hated stagnation. She needed to release some energy. She tapped her fingers on the arm of the sofa, a rhythm forming in her head. "Okay, so food is out," Jennifer said, her eyes lighting up. "But we need to do something active, something fun, something loud." She stood up and struck a dramatic pose. "Karaoke." David looked at her skeptically. Susan stopped tossing her ball. "Think about it," Jennifer continued, pacing the small room. "We haven't been to Melody Box in ages. We can get a private room. I have been practicing that new Adele song in the shower, and I am ready to debut it. We can order drinks, sing our hearts out, And just be silly. It's the perfect stress reliever. She looked at them expectantly, waiting for them to jump up and grab their coats. Instead, she was met with a chorus of coughing. David cleared his throat, a sound like gravel grinding together. He pointed to his neck. Jen, I would love to belt out some classic rock. Really, I would. But have you heard me speak today? You sound a little rough, Jennifer admitted. A little, David rasped. I sound like I've been gargling sandpaper. I woke up with this scratchy throat. If I try to hit a high note, I think my vocal cords might actually snap. I'd be miming the whole time. Jennifer turned to Susan. What about you? You're always down for karaoke. Susan shook her head, wincing slightly as she swallowed. I'm in the same boat as David, actually. I think it's allergy season or something. My throat feels raw. The idea of screaming into a microphone for 2 hours sounds like torture right now. I can barely talk without needing water. Jennifer deflated, sinking back onto the love seat. So, the choir is out of commission. Great, just great. I'm all dressed up with nowhere to sing. You could sing to us here? David suggested weakly. It's not the same without the reverb and the disco ball. David, she sighed. Besides, it's no fun singing solo while you two sit there clutching your throats and drinking tea like a couple of retirees. The karaoke plan died a swift death, killed by the cold reality of physiology. Chapter 4. The Athletic Ambition. The baton of leadership now passed to Susan. She was the pragmatist, the athlete, the one who believed that the cure for lethargy was movement. She looked at David, who was nursing his hunger, and Jennifer, who was mourning her unsung ballad. Okay, Susan said, standing up and walking to the window. She pulled the blinds up, flooding the room with bright, uncompromising sunshine. Look at that. It's 70 degrees out. There is a light breeze. It is criminal to be inside. She turned to face them, hands on her hips. Tennis. David and Jennifer stared at her. They didn't blink. I have my rackets in the trunk, Susan pressed on. The public courts at the park are usually empty around this time. We can play cutthroat, 2 against 1, rotating. It gets the blood pumping, we get fresh air, and it's free. It's the perfect solution. For a moment, the idea hung in the air. Fresh air did sound nice. But then, the reality of the physical exertion required began to set in. David looked at his body, currently molded perfectly into the soft cushions of his recliner. The concept of running, lunging, and sweating seemed like a concept from a different universe. Susan, David said slowly, I respect your drive. I really do. But look at me. I'm in a state of energy conservation. If I run right now, without food, I will faint. I will literally collapse on the court, and you will have to drag my heavy unconscious body back to the car. He's right, Jennifer chimed in. She kicked off her shoes and curled her legs under her. And honestly, Sue, I am feeling incredibly lazy today. The brunch coma is real. I don't want to sweat. I don't want to run after a yellow ball. I just want to exist. But entertainingly. You guys are terrible. Susan groaned, though she sat back down on the floor, her own burst of motivation fading as she looked at her lethargic friends. So, no food because you're full. No singing because you're sick. No sports because you're lazy. Succinct summary. David nodded. We are a disaster, Jennifer added. Chapter 5. The Deadlock. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was thicker, laced with frustration. They had exhausted the big 3 categories of hanging out: dining, entertainment, and exercise. David's stomach growled audibly, a long, low rumble that echoed in the quiet room. Shh, he whispered to his abdomen. We're working on it. We could go to a museum? Jennifer offered half-heartedly. Too much walking, David and Susan said in unison. We could go shopping? Susan suggested. I'm broke, David said. I don't need anything, Jennifer added. We could just sit here, David ventured. If we sit here for another hour, I'm going to scream, Jennifer said. And that will hurt my throat, so don't make me do it. They were trapped in a classic deadlock. It is a phenomenon known to friend groups worldwide, the inability to synchronize desires. The Venn diagram of their wants and needs had zero overlap. David needed calories. Jennifer needed stimulation. Susan needed activity, but was being dragged down by the group's gravity. And the collective constraints, full stomachs, sore throats, and laziness formed a cage around them. The sun outside began to shift, the shadows lengthening in the room. The golden hour was approaching, and they had squandered the afternoon debating. Okay, let's look at the data, Susan said, putting on her problem-solver voice. She held up 3 fingers. 1. We need an activity that is low energy, that satisfies the lazy contingent. David and Jennifer raised their hands, guilty. 2. Susan continued. It cannot involve loud vocalization. No shouting, no singing. David pointed to his throat in agreement. 3. She finished. It needs to accommodate David's need for food without forcing Jennifer and me to eat a full meal. That sounds like a riddle, Jennifer said. What fits all those criteria? They sat in contemplation. The answer needed to be passive yet engaging, allowing for eating but not requiring it, and physically undemanding. Chapter 6. The Solution. Suddenly, David's eyes widened. He sat up straight, the lethargy vanishing from his face. I've got it, he announced. Is it legal? Susan asked suspiciously. Better, David said. He pointed at the large, flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, currently dark and lifeless. Then he pointed to the door, the drive-in movie theater. Jennifer and Susan tilted their heads. Hear me out, David said, speeding up. There is a double feature playing at the Starlight Drive-In tonight. It starts in an hour. It's a Marvel marathon. He began to count off the benefits on his fingers. 1. It requires 0 physical activity. We sit in the car. We can bring blankets and pillows. Maximum laziness achieved. Jennifer nodded slowly. Okay, I'm listening. 2. No talking required. In fact, talking is discouraged. It saves our throats. Susan perked up. That's a good point. 3. The concession stand. David grinned. I can go buy a bucket of popcorn, a hot dog, and a soda. I can eat to my heart's content. You two can just have a slushie or some candy if you want, or nothing at all. There is no pressure to order a meal. And, Jennifer added, catching on to the vision, it gets us out of the house. We get a change of scenery, but we don't have to dress up or actually do anything. It satisfies the need for entertainment without the energy expenditure, Susan analyzed. It's perfect. A wave of relief washed over the room. The knot of indecision finally loosened. But who drives? Jennifer asked. My car is a mess. Mine is low on gas, Susan said. David stood up, energized by the promise of the concession stand hot dog. I will drive. My car has the best sound system for the movie anyway. Plus, I have seat warmers. Seat warmers? Jennifer gasped. Sold. Chapter 7. The Departure. The energy in the room transformed instantly. The stagnation was replaced by a flurry of low-intensity activity. I'll grab the blankets from the closet, Susan said. heading for the hallway. I'll fill up water bottles just in case, Jennifer said, heading to the kitchen. I need to hydrate this throat. David grabbed his keys and his wallet. I am going to eat so much popcorn, he declared to the room. I'm going to put so much fake butter on it. It will be radioactive. Within 10 minutes, they were out the door. The fresh air hit them, and even though they weren't playing tennis, just moving toward a goal felt good. They piled into David's SUV. David took the driver's seat. Susan took shotgun to manage the GPS, and Jennifer sprawled out in the back seat with a duvet they had dragged along. As they pulled onto the main road, the sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant pinks and purples. You know, Jennifer said from the back, her voice muffled slightly by the blanket. This was a really difficult process. Democracy is messy, Susan replied, adjusting the air conditioning. But, David said, his eyes scanning for the highway entrance, we survived. We navigated the treacherous waters of conflicting desires and physical ailments. And we're gonna see superheroes blow stuff up while sitting down, Jennifer added. And I'm going to eat a hot dog, David concluded. The car merged onto the highway, heading toward the drive-in. They weren't singing, they weren't running, and two of them weren't eating dinner. But as the city lights began to flicker on around them, they were content. They had solved the Saturday stalemate. David turned on the radio, keeping the volume low. So, he said with a grin, what are we doing next Saturday? Shut up, David, Susan and Jennifer said in unison. And they drove on into the night, perfectly happy, doing exactly enough and nothing more.